All right, so welcome back. The second hour of News Hour begins right now. My name is Ken Mijungu once again. And on the round table tonight is Dr. Eric Komolo and Dr. Duncan Ojwang. Now, Eric Komolo, for starters, was my classmate. He just decided to go to school and read more and more and more and more. Now he's a doctor.
And remain poor.
Really. I think when you study a lot, you become richer. With knowledge.
Well, knowledge-wise.
Yes,
I agree.
Dr. Komolo, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And Dr. Duncan Ojwang, I've just seen you twerk in other stations. Karibu sana tonight.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, we are laughing, but there's no laughing matter tonight. It's very important what's going on in the country currently. I'd like us tonight to talk about the possibility of having the success story once again, if Kenya can write history by nullifying the election, the presidential election or not, and also the fact that the IEBC declared this election, and there is a lot of back and forth, especially from the commissioners. Now, gentlemen, I'll start tonight with a statement from the IEBC chairperson Wafula Chebukati, Dr. Komolo. Chebukati has distanced himself and tried to exonerate himself from the accusations by these four commissioners. He says he did his duty as by law. I think that's Article 138.10, right? As a returning officer. And he also makes it clear that they were involved in the verification and tallying. But that is not the story. The story is not what he's telling us. The commissioners are telling us they were not involved in the back end. It was only Chebukati was involved. So my question tonight, the first question tonight is it possible that these commissioners were involved and they're just hoodwinking the public? And what is their motivation from where you sit?
Well, it's also possible that Chebukati is trying to save face now that the commissioners have came out first and stated their position. The broader thing is that it's very unfortunate that the commission is not working as an entity. It's very clear to me that even if they disagree, it should be through a resolution. So Mr. Chebukati should more or less be like the chair, coordinating how they pass their resolutions, how they make their decisions and all that. So the fact that he's come out to disown and more or less mischaracterize the other four means to me that the Supreme Court will have to probably deal with two versions of the story from the commission. The first one being the commission as a team of 7. Remember, they have to make decisions by simple majority, so the 4 are already in the majority. And the first respondent in any petition that will be filed will obviously be the IEBC itself. Then the second respondent will be the chairman in his capacity as returning officer. So I'm looking forward to a very interesting, I think, petition in the Supreme Court where the commission itself is not agreeing on something as important as decisions that they need to make and come out to the public as a united entity.
I'm going to ask you if this is one of those decisions that they needed to make as a commission, as 7 of them. I'm going to ask that, but let me hear from Dr. Ojwang. Dr. Ojwang, the fact that the chairman has come out tonight and disowned the statement from these commissioners, and basically he fell short of calling them liars.
Of course, so we have two versions so far. The idea that there was that tally that the vice chair was saying could have made a difference. She fell short of saying what kind of difference, but she's saying things would have been very different. If that's 0.1%, and I saw you do a good job debunking the mathematics, but it was about 144,000 votes, and she said it will have made a difference. And I assume that the difference she's talking about is that we will have been seeing a runoff situation, unlike where the deputy president barely made it through the line. So that is the context that the vice chair is saying that mathematical error was very significant. Now Chebukati is coming and saying there was an issue of, let's just round this thing off, I don't know the exact words, so that we cause a runoff. so that there is a runoff. So to that extent then, it is now in the public opinion whether what the mathematics error, at what point did they do the mathematic error? I'm assuming if they were in the table and they said there is a 144,000 error that should cause this runoff, so let us not declare that so-and-so have crossed the rubric line. And then, of course, the chair probably did not yield to that. Then they walked out. And so it doesn't have to be very a divisive issue, but it appears that both of them, the stories tally. The mathematics do not tally, but the story tally. The story of 144,000 and what it could have cost from the 4 commissioner, and the story of they wanted this thing not to be called and there is a runoff. Maybe based on the maths. Maybe it wasn't just, please, let's just help each other here. Maybe it was based on that math. Now, then the question becomes, was that arithmetic correct or not?
Okay. The other thing he says is these commissioners were forcing me to declare this a runoff. Now, it goes to my question. For the commissioners to try and force Chebukati, it means the chair, yes, it means they had a sit down and they talked about the results, right? For Chebukati to say they tried to force me. Is Chebukati Eric trying to tell us that indeed there was audience? I sat with them and we discussed the results. Because remember, one allegation they made is Chebukati, they were only shown the results 2 hours before the announcement was made.
The opaqueness.
Yes. If you want to know that perhaps Mr. Chebukati is dishonest, in the same statement he is today postponed elections in Kakamega and Mombasa and all that. And that's a decision that can only be made by the plenary. Did he meet these other commissioners? Did they decide? Or in what capacity was he postponing this election?
That's one of those decisions that needs the majority.
Yes. That's a decision of the commission. Yes. At least on the presidential one, he's claiming to have been the national presidential returning officer, so he can claim some legroom in terms of argument. So on this other ardent statement where he's accusing the commissioners for being dishonest and things like that, he's also made other serious policy changes, including postponing elections and all that. So look, I just don't believe Mr. Chebukati anymore. I think that he's being economical with the truth.
Let me play the devil's advocate. If the 4 come out tomorrow and say even the decision to postpone again Mombasa and Kakamega, we were never involved, what happens, Eric?
It's most likely going to be the case, and that means that they'll have to revisit. Because remember, it's basically disenfranchising the people of Kakamega and Mombasa and these other constituencies, and it's done it, even worse, it's done it indefinitely on very, very weak allegations about insecurity and things like that. Remember, Musando was also assassinated in 2017 and nobody postponed elections. So we know there's always been insecurity around elections. So Mr. Chebukati is trying to basically playing with us on very serious issues.
But Mombasa and Kakamega were never gazetted as hotspots. How
suddenly the more reason why I wonder why he's postponing elections, because remember, the returning officer for Kakamega and Mombasa and the polling staff and agents are based there.
Okay. Duncan, Daktari.
Duncan is okay.
Daktari, today the minister or the cabinet secretary for education, Professor George Magoha, has just said that schools are safe and students can return.
Yes.
Mombasa and Kakamega are within this country.
They're within Kenya.
So if our students are safe to go to school, what is this insecurity that Chebukati is alleging?
Yeah, but you see, those are 2 lies in one sentence. One, that it is not the commission decision. Dr. Eric Omolo is making that assumption to the extent that probably he has not told us, but he's just saying this Chebukati is a bad guy.
I'm not saying he's a bad guy. I'm saying he's
untrustworthy.
He's untrustworthy.
He probably made that decision unilaterally.
Definitely cannot issue a statement on behalf of the commission where on one paragraph he's accusing the commissioners for being dishonest and another one communicating a resolution of the commission.
Is there rules on how to communicate?
It's basic public communication.
do you feel comfortable? Let me not interrogate you. Are not Chebukati.
I'm not Chebukati. I'm not a
But you
commissioner.
can ask him that.
You can ask me.
I
But
give you
what
the
I'm
power
saying
to
is
host
that
the show.
he has suspicion,
Yes.
he has a hunch, but so far, Wakili, we don't know. That is the up to this point.
Ain't we trained? All of us are lawyers here. Ain't we trained to deduce that kind of a thing?
No, it's not. But based on what? Because the other commissioners have not come and said this is not a decision by the commission.
That's why the question was more of what if tomorrow they come out and say.
Then we say tomorrow. You see, this is a bootstrapping argument. You know how you tie your lace around the boot so that they head somewhere. So Chebukati acted on Kakamega alone, and therefore, most likely, he acted unilaterally, therefore, and therefore, he's a bad guy. I mean, that bootstrapping argument is what I'm saying.
Dr. John, that's not the first time we're hearing commissioners accusing Chebukati of being dishonest and unable to guide the commission. 2017, after the election, Dr. Roselina Kombe. Apart from Roselina Kombe, we had Nkatha, the vice chair then. Right?
Who resigned,
Nkatha, Margaret Moitanya. Apart from Moitanya, was Paul Kurgat. I mean, those are 4 commissioners. These are 4 commissioners. I mean, why is it that all commission, all the time, they have to come out?
To me, it's very clear. A commission is just one of the many organizations that are run in a collegial manner. We also work in boards and all that. We know how board resolutions are passed and communicated. To me, it is very clear that you cannot issue one statement where you disagree with your members of your team and another one then communicate a decision where members are supposed to be involved and claim to have involved them. It's very clear to me. But look, I'm not a commissioner. They will come out tomorrow and say this.
Definitely.
What I'm very sure about is that we are going to have a very interesting petition in the Supreme Court, where most likely there will be 2 versions of the story from the very commission that's supposed to guide us and supposed to supervise the entire process of tallying and verification. And that means the justices will probably have a bigger challenge trying to deal with respondents who are not having one line story.
It would have helped if the commission was unified going to the Supreme Court. Is that what you're saying?
It would have been ideal. It's also good for the country.
It's also good to the country. Dr. Joan, it would have helped if the commission was unified in this, because Azimio la Umoja One Kenya is going to court.
Yeah, most likely. Article 140 say you can go to court. A person may file in the Supreme Court to challenge the election. You don't even have to have a good reason. That is a different aspect altogether. You can go, even for no good reason. But here, because we have not even seen the case, isn't it? We have not seen the allegations. But so far, the role of the chair is the spokesperson. The qualification of chair is different from the chairara and the colleagues. This is somebody who must be able to be a judge of the High Court. This is somebody who so the commission, in fact, whenever the commission is being hired, there is the chair and the commission.
Independently, you apply.
And those are 2 different tier. There was an attempt to say that vice chair can mop to be a chair. When Jubilee tried to pass that legislation, it didn't work. So this is not, so to speak, you are a first among the equal. No. You are really
above
the equal.
Yes.
No, that's not true. The chair is first amongst the equal, except he has additional administrative responsibilities as spokesperson.
When they sit as the commission, they are first among
with the similar votes.
They're all commissioners.
Yeah. So that's not true.
So in our context, there is his additional role as returning officer who announces the results. That role is specific because we have seen other returning officers even in the constituencies. It is not likely for any candidate to say, Mr. Returning Officer, in this constituency, are those results seen by your deputies? Because there is delegated authority, which is a returning officer. He's doing exactly that in that capacity as the chair. So there's that additional role. And that is where you started by saying, is this a dispute within the commission? But even with all that, I don't think it is. Because the Chebukati was playing his role as the returning officer. having been given additional qualification. But
I don't know where Ken is. I don't know where that is reading his law.
You know, I wanted to ask, even before you interject, the role that the commissioner, for example, he calls himself the National Returning Officer.
Presidential.
Yeah. That's a role that doesn't exist in law. That name doesn't exist in law. It's self-given.
If you look at the law, it continues saying the chair shall do this, shall do this, shall do this.
The chair shall declare results of the commission.
Yeah.
After the commission verifies and tallies.
Yes.
The chair is
That's
not the commission.
138.10 if I'm not wrong.
Yes, the chair is not the commission.
So
the chair works with the team, which is why they were reading them out to us aloud.
And the IEBC Act defines what a commission is.
Yes.
Very clearly.
But importantly, everyone saw the commissioners reading out the results and all that.
Yes.
That meant that they were supposed to be, and they are actually part of verifying and tallying. And after tallying, and they agree that this is the eventual results, by resolution, then the chair goes to read.
Okay.
Yeah. So then let me ask you.
Yes.
One, so it continue. I'll give you that section in a minute. But it continues saying the chair shall verify from each constitution, the chair, and then it comes to a point of saying,
law.
I think these are rules and regulations.
Those are rules.
Those are rules.
No, that can be specific. Which law are you reading?
Those are rules and regulations.
Yeah, but read 138.10.
10.
Yeah.
Yes.
Read 138.10. That is what's very clear.
According to that, whenever there is an issue like declaring a result where you have not received result from all the constituencies, then it says the commission shall vote.
Okay.
In that context, where let's say we have not received some result from some constituency totally, but the commission will say, can they tilt the outcome? If they cannot, then they say can
they materially affect
the results?
Yeah.
That is the part that now the commission is referred to, that the commission must vote.
No. I think that girl is trying to be economical with the truth here.
Look,
he's talking about the tail end of process of verification and tallying, where it is clear now you have, say, 10 constituencies that are yet to be verified and tallied, and the difference between the first and the second card is such that it's not possible mathematically to
that is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that there could be a situation like we saw in 2017 where some constituency did not carry out the national election, the presidential election. So in that situation then, the commission can still say, or let's say the results are not in, the commission can still say now, without Rangwe constituency results, should we declare the winner?
If the number of voters in Rangwe that will not statistically change.
That part, the act is very clear that it has to be the commission. But even eventually, think about it this way. Are you telling me that we all know that the results do not come from the commissioners? They verify. But where do the results come from?
Polling stations.
34As.
Yes.
From the polling stations. So, is it a matter of the commission referendum of saying, now guys,
let's decide this.
Let us decide. No, let me finish.
Yes.
To what implication? So then you have the majority saying, declare. No. Then it's a decision, if it's a decision of the commission, even assuming that's a decision of the commission, so that the majority, for no good reason, say that as majority, we are saying, don't declare that so-and-so has won. Okay?
Is that a decision they can make? Okay.
Even assuming right now that there was that sitting and Chebukati accorded that chance, where the four of them being majority said, for us, do not declare so-and-so. What happens to the results?
So Ken, I've seen a lot of politics about how the commission should work as an entity. The fact is the commission works through resolutions, and they have a mandate that is stipulated in the constitution. So it's not like they can subvert the will of the people, the sovereign will of the people. They're supposed to just be sure that the will is observed in terms of whether the process of verification and tallying is in accordance with the law. So it's also possible that when you verify, you will get some that are not accurate, you'll get some that are not filled right, you'll get some that are statistically not matching. We know that they cannot change, but you can record.
Yeah.
And then you can submit this to the courts, because the courts have powers to change. Those are where resolutions are required. So if the 4 commissioners are saying they were not consulted, it's possible that there were forms that had mathematical errors. That forms that are not clear. So you cannot then say that, you know, I'm the National Returning Officer as the chairperson, so I'm proceeding regardless of possible
Tell me something,
errors.
Daktari. Is it possible that the law can give discretion, this discretion with one hand, depending on what Duncan is saying? It gives discretion on one and takes it with the other hand.
It's all possible, but discretion is given in context. Whatever discretion you exercise as a chairperson should never exceed your powers. As if you're also given obligation, you have obligation in law to work as a team. So the chair normally in meetings, as for example a casting vote, is for example has an obligation to make a decision, then consult later, particularly on issues of emergency and things like that. So discretion is there. But we are talking of serious national security issues. We are talking of serious decisions that have serious national implications. So Mr. Chebukati cannot go around keep telling us that, you know, my commissioner are not working with me, or I consulted them, they wanted me to alter results. We want specifics.
Okay. I want to go to something specific now.
Before you go, please, just a second.
Yes.
So then, with all this, it's about guarding the will of the people. And the commission
that's the ultimate goal,
isn't it?
Yeah.
For the will of the people,
but also executing your duty in a collegial manner.
Verifiable, accountable, all those constitutional principles. What is due to you as a commission is also a subject of law. It is what the law grants you. So I cannot come as a commission and say, since the majority of us are saying that Ken, give so-and-so your laptop, and we are the majority, give it. What you can ask is what the law allows you to ask. What you can demand is what the law allows you to demand. So you cannot just shoot from the hip and say, here we come, the majority of us demanding this.
Is that not the danger of oversimplification of serious national issues?
You think so?
We are talking about national elections. We are talking about a country that is more or less a stalemate as we speak.
And you think he's simplifying?
He's oversimplifying it. The big issue here is that in the process of verification, there could be disagreement. Then you sit down as a commission and say, okay, these are the disagreements. It's also possible that on those disagreements, issues that are identified to be issues where you disagree, that there's no consensus. That's why you work as a team, you record. You see, you record. Obviously, they were still going to declare results one way or the other. We know they don't have power to alter, but you record. Say, on this we didn't disagree. What we are hearing from the 4 commissioners is that they were never consulted at all. And remember, Mr. Chebukati has a history. I don't know him as a person, but he has a history of working with 11 commissioners, 8 of whom have disagreed with him. And I've said he doesn't consult.
History. Yes. But Ken, you know we have a right to talk about commissioner, but not to lie for them. Okay? We have no right to lie for the 4 commissioners. The 4 commissioners left on the last day.
Hours before the announcement.
Hours before the announcement. Yes. After all the verification are done, according to them. And on their own word.
According to them.
On their own word.
You know, just a minute, that's not right. According to them, about 20, 30 constituencies had not been verified. And by the way, I'm not their lawyer. I have no intention.
At what point is that in their press statement?
Yes.
They said it.
So they said we worked very well. We worked very well.
Yes.
And the opaqueness.
And they said it was opaque at the end.
At the tallying. At the tallying.
Yes.
Not at the tallying.
At the tallying. They would get results, but they would not know what's going on in the back end.
For the 4 days.
Yes.
For the 4 days.
Yes.
As you were seeing Justice Nyangai on the floor, as you were seeing Cherera on the floor, announcing.
Yes.
The media houses were now tallying with what IBC was adding from those constituencies. For not 1 day, not 2 days, not 3 days, 4 days, working together They are announcing, and they did actually a lot of announcing. I still remember the voice of Nyang'aya announcing this thing after verification, detailing from what constituencies, and those tallies. By that time, the media house now are projecting, are transmitting the real tallies. So at what point, the last day, in fact, I was in Bomas, they worked until the night, until the verification and whatever is over. Then the last day now, when there is no more verification, is where they move to a safe place and said, you know what, when it came to the last part, their things were opaque.
Look, Ken, you know,
the fourth day.
I think I disagree with Duncan.
So they were checking and not tallying for the 4 days?
Look, verification is a technical assignment.
For the 4 days?
Just a minute.
Were they adding those marks?
Let's go logically so that we can make sense to the public here. Verification is a technical exercise. We also, it was being done on the floor of Bomas. And then it's passed to commissioners who, by and large, are policy people. They're more or less exercising policy mandate to announce. So they announced for several constituencies, give or take 250.
About 250.
About 250. The last out of 290. 291 actually, if you add diaspora. Then logically, the intention was to then announce the last ones and then the final declaration.
Yes.
So the issue of tallying then becomes an issue logically towards the tail end, because you announce, you pass them to the right technical staff to now tally.
Was the tallying going on for these other days?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Was there a problem with the tallying for this other days?
They didn't have a problem with that.
Okay.
No. Now it's emerging that there are a couple of constituencies where even the numbers announced were not tallying with
exactly. I want to add, while you speak about that, does it materially affect their participation in this case? Because they announced those figures that did not tally.
Announcing is more or less public participation. So you remember 138.10, if I'm not wrong, speaks of verification. Then tallying.
Yeah, this one is more of a ceremonial thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So
the
announcement is you know that as a commissioner.
But were they participating for these 4 days?
In Chukwai Soma?
Like any other commission?
In the ceremonial aspect, yes.
So
but now at the end, you now say, okay, we have announced this. Are they the correct ones? Now you sit down as a commission. That is why.
Where do you get this procedure or protocol?
That is why you work as a commission. That's why it's a resolution.
But you have worked for 4 daes.
I mean,
because it's a process.
I thought it's a very simple thing to appreciate the fact that, you know, when you are doing the initial technical verification, then you read.
You verify and you don't add them up. We were seeing them adding them up.
No. Adding is taking place at a technical level.
If they even quoted this, even the screens did not reflect the numbers as they were being added and to each other. So they announced, but no screen reflected that.
But it's safe to assume that there was another, there was a different team of technical staff
who are doing
the adding
back end.
Then as a commission, you now sit towards the end and say, okay, you have been adding. What have you added?
Let's verify this.
Is it right? A, B, C, D percentage. That's how boards work. That's how commissions
and that's what they're saying they did not do.
And that's what they're saying, that at that point, Mr. Chebukati was not cooperating. It's a simple site.
It was his own process.
It's a simple site, my brother.
And that is where Chebukati is saying, they were saying,
they're lying.
This thing to a runoff.
Yes. No, they posted last minute.
Last minute.
That is Chebukati's version today, which is why I'm very sad about IBC.
And what is his version prior?
He had nothing. He went and declared results.
Yeah. So he had no.
Which, by the way, did not include many aspects. Now I'm sensing that they are trying to correct it on the website. There are even bigger questions about the website, but let's not talk about it now. Now he's trying to add valid votes, rejected votes, total votes, total voters who voted, and all those things. He should have been saying them at that point when he was declaring Mr. Ruto as president-elect.
Eric Komolo speaks like the 4 commissioners because they were asking
because
themselves. You speak like them because you say,
I think he's the 5th commissioner. There are 5 commissioners. Add the tally.
He speaks like the verify this now. Is he the one who wrote that statement?
He's the 5th commissioner.
Is he the one who wrote that statement?
I've been here long enough to know that.
Are you the one who wrote that statement? You speak like them tonight.
I hope I'll be a commissioner.
I hope they will be
after serving as a member of parliament.
So Duncan, explain this to me. Article 138.3c. After counting the votes in the polling stations, this is 138.3c, right? After counting the votes in the polling stations, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission shall tally, verify the count, and declare the results. Who is the commission here? Who is this person they're talking about here, Dr. John?
You know, at my polling station, there was no commissioner, right? Eric Komolo was a candidate. I don't think throughout the constituency he met any of these commissioners. But IBC undertook, supervised an election through the people that were POs, are they called presiding officers?
Yes, and clerks.
And the clerks, but working for IBC.
Yes.
And of course, you know, there's vicarious liability up to IBC. They are actually IBC officials.
Yes.
So then, when you talk of IBC, you are talking of
the whole team. Okay. So it's the whole team.
No,
because it cannot be a commissioner who went to Nini. Yeah, go ahead.
So this was addressed in the minor KI case that Dr. Juang was talking about yesterday. So results at the polling station should ideally be final. So that means when you're talking about IBC, you're also talking about the technical staff. But we're also talking about context here in terms of the eventual, particularly at presidential level, the eventual declaration. That's why they have to be brought to Nairobi in several forms. There's Form 34A that has to be sent, then the constituency guys have to come with another one. So that means at national level, then you are talking of context. After you finish the polling station, then you have to bring it to the commissioners. So IBC in that context is the commissioners, which is why they have to be involved, and then they have to verify and they have to ensure that everything is right. Even if they disagree, they note. It's not their job to alter. They note. And then in case of a dispute, or in case whatever they have noted is likely to alter the results, then of course they take to the Supreme Court. They are also at liberty to go to the Supreme Court.
As
their own motion.
Anyone can go to the Supreme Court.
They are a person.
So I want to talk about...
but remember, it's a process.
It's a process.
It is a process. So it is not right to say that when you're talking of, is it
138 3C? Yes.
It's not right to say that the IBC referred to there is either Mr. Chebukati or the technical staff, POs and all that. When you are talking about presidential, you look at it in context. There is a commission through commissioners to pass a resolution and go through and declare.
There's a process to this.
Yes.
There's a process. Remember, this is something that started at the polling station.
That's part of the dispute we are going to have in the Supreme Court.
Exactly, because it looks like the same dispute we had in 2017. Yeah. I mean, on that basis alone, the basis is the process.
The qualitative.
Yes.
The qualitative test.
It's the same thing.
But remember, in 2017, they didn't open the server. They were ordered to open the server, right? In 2017, they did not have original Form 34As. They brought in duplicates and majority without security features. This time, Chebukati have, so to speak, the proverbial server in the portal. This time, the Form 34As, that is where the election is done at the grassroots, at the polling station, are there in originals. So yes and no, to the extent that we have not really seen the full case and give Azimio their best case. I think it would be fair to do that. But we have not seen their full case. But we know so far a few things. We know that the order to open server will probably now be go to the portal. In fact, the server has been open. We have been saying media come and
well, I'm not sure
the original Form 34As are here, unlike in 2017.
I'm not sure whether the website is the server. That's a very technical dispute beyond my capability at this stage. What I anticipate is that there will be a petition that is both qualitative and quantitative. Quantitative in the sense that obviously there are allegations that there were some polling stations some results that were constituents that were announced by the commissioners that valid votes and votes cast and all that don't tally. You can see some on the social media. It's very difficult to verify on social media, but that's a good reason to start questioning the quantitative aspect in terms of total number of votes, whether the candidates actually got the entire thing. Then the qualitative is more or less obvious. There will be the more of IT side. I expect that whoever is going to file a petition have experts to then question the server, including whether it was hacked and things like that. And then obviously there is also the issue of disagreement in the commission that we've been discussing over the past 30 minutes or so in terms of process of making decisions and resolutions and all that. And the unfortunate thing here is that we are going to have two versions of the story. That of the returning officer, Mr. Chebukati, as second respondent. And
what is the threshold for this? Is it your word against mine?
Is reasonable?
Is it your word against mine? We have all commissioners.
No. So this is where the justices will have challenge, because you also don't just nullify elections. So it will have to be on a balance. It has to be that you are convinced that that by and large there's some water in the argument that.
And I think just to support that, I think they said that in the balance of probability, not beyond reasonable doubt, and not. A little bit
on a balance of probability beyond reasonable doubt.
So 50 plus 1 almost, isn't it? Okay. So that is not very high standard, but it's also
not so low,
isn't it? And it makes sense. And then they also added that could a reasonable tribunal, looking at this election, remember that is under the qualitative test, say that this election was conducted according to the law. And I think that is a very important standard.
Yes.
That overall, 50 plus 1. So you don't just say I have something. It must reach that threshold.
Okay. So tell me, if the outcome, for example, best case scenario, Dr. Joang, the additional constituency, the missing votes, all these things tally, right? But there is just one aspect that does not tie up. They don't materially affect the outcome of the election, but the process is flawed. Does the Supreme Court, will the Supreme Court say this, and this is to both of you, will the Supreme Court say, on the basis of, even if we took the votes that are disputed, let's assume that the 142 is disputed and all, doesn't take us to runoff, or takes us to runoff, right? But the fact is this, it doesn't materially affect the outcome of this election, but the process is flawed. On that basis alone,
when the Supreme Court tied itself in 2017, when they said the election is both a process as good as the outcome.
But the Supreme Court is the only institution that can change its mind and depart from its previous ruling.
Then they'll have very good reason to depart.
Yes,
they can. The president.
Yes, they can. They can.
Yeah.
But you see,
it will have to be very justified.
Yes.
I think that then you'll have to look at the material flow in the process.
Wholesome.
Is it Is it so significant? Is it so significant a departure from what is expected of the commission? So that's very difficult to comment on. But look, from where I stand, petitions are good for Kenya. It's good for improving the electoral process. It's also good for checking IBC, because it's very clear that IBC is a body that by and large is not as independent as we think.
I think, just to add, it can. That, in 2013, the jurisprudence they picked from Nigeria, the one people didn't like, that it must have a bearing to the outcome. So they said, whatever you have said went wrong, you have not proved that it will change the outcome. In 2017 comes the qualitative test, where they are saying, even if it does not change the outcome, but you must conduct the election according to law. So indeed, it can affect, whether it does not affect the numbers. But still, law, and that is what makes it difficult, because law is a social science. It's about persuasion, it's about a lot of other things, but it cannot be at least triviality, and that is why the standard of 50 plus 1 and not beyond reasonable doubt is fair enough.
Okay. Very interesting indeed. So I want to pick out some areas in this case. Prima facie, Eric. What do you think? What do you think this guy's case will be? Azimio's case will be in this? What would they be contesting?
I don't speak for them.
No, you don't speak for them, but you're a lawyer.
Just speak for them. You don't speak for them, but just speak for them.
Baba himself has publicly said that we are not going to say much at this stage until the case is filed.
Which is a good strategy.
Yes, which is a good strategy not to release. But I expect the petition to question the process, including the disagreements in the commission. I expect the petition to question the process, including IT component. There are very serious allegations that the server that we are using to download this all the forms, including 34C, could not be ISBC's server.
Could be downloading from somewhere else.
It could already be compromised.
Okay.
Serious allegations that I expect to come up. I also expect them to build a serious case about the numbers, the actual numbers. And obviously I expect them to build a case around what happened at the polling stations. We know a lot about what happened at the polling station, manipulation of agents and things like that. So expect a very solid petition, and expect that it will be argued by very solid people who know what they're doing.
Okay. Dr. Joang, you look prima facie what they're saying, what they're stating. The chances that this ties in with whatever happened in 2017, let's forget about 2013. The chance that any of this ties in?
It does, because the Supreme Court is back again to check to what extent did the IBC comply with the 2017 ruling, especially on the qualitative test. So yes, it is so familiar. It is, hey, how have you been doing after 5 years? Welcome back. Chebukati, you know, same players, a little bit not from the declared winner side, but from the other side, it's the same belt. But as it is, of course, then the usual question, remember at the last time, very fast, was it Azimio? It wasn't Azimio, it was
NASA.
It was NASA.
Yes.
There have been a lot of, it was NASA. The NASA went to court very early and said, open the server. You announced the results without receiving all Form 34As. In fact, your own website don't have them. You told us you have received them. You are lying, you don't have them. And therefore you declared the result without receiving Form 34A. Chebukati himself came out and said, my guys, if there is a problem with 34A, rely on 34B, which is ridiculous, because 34B is a product of 34A. So 34B cannot correct 34A, but 34A can correct 34B. So this time, then Chebukati will basically say, guys, you directed this. I have 34As. They are here. You said that the result must be verifiable, accountable. I have been begging media to do the tally. Here is the proverbial...
That could be the mischief also.
portal.
Have you looked at it like that, Dr. John? That telling the media, do this, could be the mischief
to fix
in this?
No, but it's a requirement.
But
you know,
so
verification.
requirement
Why are you...
It's not a requirement.
It's not a requirement.
No,
it's probably,
it is
you
good measure.
You may want to say it's
a very good measure.
You may want to say it's public service.
But
I mean,
No, it's
but
not
it's
public
not-
service. These guys are consuming airwave paid by taxpayers.
No, but I mean, you did a lot of stuff to verify 46,000.
Yeah, of course.
We don't.
Look,
I think
but
no
the fact
single
is,
individual,
the fact
even
is,
a political party, has that capacity.
The fact is, I personally went to the purported server because I'm calling it purported because there are questions about whether it is the actual server, whether it's the actual website and all that for IBC. But whatever it is, I went there and downloaded for 2 counties. And I can assure you, out of the several forms, about 7 or so that I saw, there were some 20 plus that are not readable. And
Really?
I did that from
So
the
an
comfort
audit-
of my
an
place.
audit
So
could-
there will be need, whoever is filing petition will need to audit. It's very possible that the server is already compromised. It's very possible that some of the forms uploaded there, which is why we are talking of security features, are not originally from the polling stations. So it's up to IBC to prove that all these allegations we are saying are not true.
Which is okay.
But I can assure you, I've been to their purported server
you've
myself,
seen it. Okay.
and I've seen
Did
some
any
forms
of
that
you
I
ever
cannot read.
step in Bomas? Maybe that's a personal question.
Obviously, obviously, you know, Ken was there as an accredited journalist, and I wasn't there as
maybe at the tent. But the boring process that was actually driving people to suicidal thought was this. Each side came with, how do you call that light?
Which one?
The
blue light.
The blue light.
Yes.
And
we'll go through the forms.
They go through this 9 or 7 security features on each form. Yes, it is. Before they start looking at the arithmetic, they first make sure this at least.
I'll download. Those are the originals, not the downloaded.
Yeah, but you use the original
to compare what's in the
check what is in the, yes, isn't it?
Okay.
Because remember, it is a requirement to bring the result both digitally and manually.
Yes.
Because that is why people are caught. It is very hard to compromise both. So that is why you use this to check this. But one of the things that was there, I think there were 9 security features, and that's why election here is very expensive. Each
also in the forms, not only the ballot, even the forms have 9 security features.
Yes,
okay.
I saw
they
them.
Should have. Okay.
And you could see whenever you, I mean, if you were there and you saw the process that took 4 days, then you can know that to some extent, the 2017 decision of Form 34A, if you saw what the agent saw until maybe the last day, you could see that Chebukati is and the IBC is in a much better place than the Supreme Court 2017.
There's no doubt that there's an improvement from 2017 in terms of trying to integrate security features, protection, and engaging stakeholders. But that doesn't mean it's perfect. And that's why we are still questioning.
And they're not required to provide a perfect election either.
They should comply.
The Supreme Court did not require perfect. Even as they were talking, they said that a reasonable probability. That is why it's 50 plus nini. But at the end of the day, even the issue of announcing rejected vote and whatever, spoiled vote. Remember, they do not count to the tally.
They do count to the percentages.
No, they don't.
They do.
No.
When you are now starting to calculate percentages, there's the issue of rejected votes. There's the issue of spoiled ballots or whatever. Where there's the issue of total number of, just a minute, total number of votes cast, then total number of valid votes, then number of votes obtained by each candidate. You need that to obtain the percentages, particularly from the valid votes. So all this, because for you to get the valid votes and total votes cast, you must also get the rejected and spoiled and things like that.
They all add up.
No. In 2013, remember, we had the third candidate or the second, which was the many rejected vote. And there was a ruling that they do not count. Otherwise, Jubilee will not have crossed to 50 plus 1. No, let me finish. So in terms of tallying the valid votes cast, you do not include in the equation, and therefore it is fair to say that they have no bearing to the percentage.
They are bearing to the process.
Okay,
at the end of the day, you must account for those. You have to account
where they. So you cannot then tell us, come to read to us that the 14 million people voted.
Equation.
It does because at a particular point we'll start questioning how many voters did cast their ballots, how many were rejected, how many did you consider valid, and at what point then did you arrive at these percentages. So it matters.
And in the KM's kit, for example, Dr. If you have to compare what's in the KM's kit versus what's out there, for example, if every polling station only records 700, it means you cannot vote 100. Even if you were to vote 100%, it's just 700.
Actually, I noticed most of them are actually about 400.
400, most of them.
So that's why the turnout.
So it counts. I think it counts because ultimately, if you compare what's in the KIMS and the spoiled, they have to at one point they have to.
I was in a couple of polling stations in Rangwe where people could not be identified using their biometrics.
Okay.
So at that point, you also have to tell us how many voted using manually. So because the biometrics, I'm told, was supposed to send our data automatically. So we should be knowing how many voted by biometrics. So it's not as simple as that. The petition will have to question all those things.
Of course. Yes. The question, but the issue you're asking, what could the case look like?
Yes.
So what we are trying to do is look for the smoke gun. It looks like it's ahead from the social media.
No, I'm not.
Industrious social media group, but there is smoking gun. But to be honest,
You think they found the smoking gun already?
From where I'm seated right now, I'm still asking the question that preoccupy my time and concern my effort is I know that they cannot go to Supreme Court without a serious case, isn't it?
I can assure you a serious case.
And so I'm looking for that smoking gun.
In the last election,
and if they have it, they have kept it to themselves.
In the last election, Dr. Juang,
Yeah.
the smoking gun, and I think largely that election was nullified on the basis of that. The 81 constituencies that were sampled. That was a smoking gun out of 290.
It was bad.
Yes,
you will get a smoking gun on Monday, my friend. Yes.
When they do the pre-trial.
When we file the petition, then you have to respond.
So you think as at now these guys have a smoking gun?
Definitely, nobody at the level that Azimio and team would file a frivolous petition.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I mean, nobody can expose the Right Honourable Prime Minister to make serious statements about.
How material is that statement once more?
What do you mean?
The statement from the 4 commissioners in this case.
Well, you'll have to wait for the petition because I'm not speaking on.
I know, but you're saying substantially. I mean,
legally speaking, I think it's going to substantially affect credibility of IBC's case.
Okay.
Yeah.
But doesn't affect the credibility of the election, or it's tied?
No, so that entirely depends on how you build your pleadings.
Facts,
Okay.
Yes, how you plead the things and then you link it up.
Let me hear from Daktari. What do you think about the commissioners? Does it substantially affect?
No, I'm in a difficult situation because I respect those commissioners. For example, Nyang'aya is somebody I respect a lot. So I feel bad or difficult to say that they could just be busybodies, all right? Because I respect them knowing their records, for example. But at this point, the choreograph where you do your presser and 5 minutes Azimio come and one uses it is unconstitutional and another one calls it null and void and one speak for each other, appears that they might be eating from the same pot.
I think that's an unfair analysis from you as a lawyer.
It's a coincidence.
No, it's not coincidence. They were quoting from the Maina Kiai case. If they read it verbatim, they're bound to agree. They're bound to agree on it. If we quote from a case, in conclusion, that's why it started. In conclusion, we'd like to. That was the judges. How do you expect the script to read differently?
I expect the script, for a lay person, do not care so much about legalese.
There's no legalese there. This is a ruling that has been given. Everyone you have access to it, right? So at the end of the day, if Komolo was to read this ruling entirely, I would read it the same way. So if they read the same paragraph the same way,
then I think it's a meeting of great minds.
Let me help Dr. Juang.
I didn't play the video of the week, but go ahead.
Let me help Dr. Juang here so that he avoids too many unnecessary conspiracy theories.
Yes.
At the end of the day, IBC was supposed to be engaging stakeholders, including political parties, throughout the process. The commissioners were those same people who were supposed to be engaging stakeholders, so they knew. Everyone should have known that, at this point, commissioners are meeting. At this point, we are supposed to meet chief agents. At this point, the results should be declared. In fact, it's supposed to be at 3 p.m.
Yes.
3 p.m. So it's not very unusual that there will be disagreement around 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. and that the commissioners will leave. And then Azimio will also disown the results and things like
then
that.
The next day,
because it's logical, just a minute, it's logical. It's logical that disagreements and presses were supposed to be done around that time that declaration was supposed to be done, because that was the issue in dispute, tallying and eventual declaration. The next day, you basically Ken has explained to you they were referring to Maina Kiai's case. And the word null and void is not a monopoly of either Azimio, Kenya Kwanza, or the commissioners. It's something logical. If you have
a random person will find
if you have lawyers,
if you have
lawyers advising you, then you should have known that this process is unconstitutional, and therefore the election is null and void. I'm not saying they are not consulting, because the commission is exactly supposed to consult stakeholders, including political parties and presidential candidates who are present at the National Tallying Center. At that point, merger of languages and things like this, to me, it's semantics.
It's trivial. I agree.
Okay. All right. Let's now play the video of the week. When we come back, I'll give the gentlemen here, the two doctors, an opportunity to close the show for us. But first, let's take a look at the video of the week.
And the evidence shows that communities that give their daughters the same opportunities as their sons, they are more peaceful, they are more prosperous, they develop faster, they are more likely to succeed. That's true in America, that's true here in Kenya. It doesn't matter. And that's why one of the most successful development policies you can pursue is giving girls an education and removing the obstacles that stand between them and their dreams. And by the way, if you educate girls, they grow up to be moms, and they, because they're educated, are more likely to produce educated children. And the evidence shows that communities that give their daughters the same opportunities as their sons, they are more peaceful, they are more prosperous, they develop faster, they are more likely to succeed. That's true in America, that's true here in Kenya. It doesn't matter. And that's why one of the most successful development policies you can pursue is giving girls an education and removing the obstacles that stand between them and their dreams. And by the way, if you educate girls, they grow up to be moms, and they, because they're educated, are more likely to produce educated children.
That was Barack Obama back in 2015 when he was in Kenya. And was it 2014, 2015?
15,
I think. It's 2015.
Yeah.
But the reason why that video makes it to the video of the week is because of the number of elected leaders who are women. I mean, his election has seen a lot of women elected. So even as you conclude with the outcome of the election, your reflection on how people did this election, Dr. Akumono?
Before I comment on gender issues, it's
Yes.
also important to observe that what you're seeing as the portal for IBC is just a user interface. It's not the actual server that was receiving the forms. So this is just meant for the outside world, anyone to download. The real server has not been opened, and I think I need to answer my friend and brother on that. So there are bigger technology issues that we are supposed to address. Look, as somebody who's a little bit slightly more involved in the elections, I'm a bit impressed by the number of women that got elected, but I'm also disappointed by the level of violence and rigging that some of the women candidates perpetrated themselves. So it's not like being a woman of itself should excuse you from observing election laws and things like that. But we are supposed to celebrate if we have a general trend where more women particularly engage in elective politics and do it honorably, and particularly when they don't go for these affirmative action seats. So I'm very disappointed, for example, that there are so many women who choose to defend for a third time this woman representative seat, and things like that. But back to the bigger point, wait for the petition.
Okay.
I'm very convinced that there is going to be a very solid petition on both qualitative and quantitative aspects.
Okay.
And I'm very convinced that the elections as it stands was compromised. And it is in our interest that the Supreme Court gets to audit this, resets the buttons, and we have a fresh election where everything is addressed, and where the four candidates, because fresh elections will have the four candidates on the ballot, have a fair chance.
Okay.
This is good for Kenya, and I'm sure it's also good for Kenya Kwanza that my friend Dr. Juang represents here.
Dr. Juang.
I thought I'm here on my personal capacity.
That can nobody believe.
This is coming from the fifth commissioner. But I think that we need to. We are in a much better place with more women leaders, and clearly they did very well. in both formation. I think both have bragging rights, including governor, which is a very serious seat. And therefore it worked very well. Okay. But finally, my view is that the 34B errors here and there are minimum, that the election is won or lost at the polling stations and not in bombers, that the process is important, but no amount of, if you have a strong case, you have a strong case. If you have a weak case, you have a weak case. Okay. Whether you bring J.C. Jackson, no, he's not a lawyer, or the best lawyer, Al Sharpton, no, he's not a lawyer. Whether you bring Bensouda.
We have very good lawyers.
Yeah, yeah. Whether you bring, but I'm trying to allow my poetry to move. Whether you bring Bensouda, a weak case do not turn to be strong. Okay. Because the election was won or lost at 34 A's and at the polling station. And the will of the people ultimately is what must count. Finally, you have seen the agents and you have seen the observers say that they have learned something, including European Union, that we have learned the verifiability and the openness of this process. We have something to take home. To me, that you should be proud as a Kenyan that we are used to being lectured by Wazungu. Here now they are saying this is something to import.
Okay. My director, Okedi, has told me it's time to go, but just one question, electoral justice, 30 seconds. Do you think it's time Kenyans punish offenders, especially people who are involved in the election processes when they make such mistakes?
Very important, very important. I think we need to take responsibility to individual officers who manipulate elections. That's also part of the bigger problem in Kenya. It's called administrative justice, where many officials make decisions knowing that they don't miss the transaction cost, the eventual cost.
Yeah, because politicians are beneficiaries.
Yes, politicians and the corrupt networks that we have here. So I think it's probably a conversation we need to have after this election, that we should be holding people individually responsible where it matters. And just to, I don't want to answer my friend, but just to confirm that the petition in terms of its solidity and all that is something that you can only discuss once you see it filed.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Finally, we need to punish. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the law have moved to individual culpability. And because you cannot jail IBC, but you can jail an individual who is shouting fire in a crowded elevator and they are not seeing fire, for example. So yes, there is provision for that. Even at the Supreme Court last time, it fell short to find individual culpability because
that's not their work.
But it should be, and so that people can realize that you are there not to protect, guard an interest, but to serve Kenyans.
And by the way, that's very important for polling station, presiding officers.
Everyone.
Even down there is
once they know you jail a couple of them,
they will do the right thing. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Matheka has been gracious enough to grant us the 2 minutes to conclude this show. My name is Ken Mijungu. Thank you so much for watching News Hour. We're back again next week, same place, same time, with another great show. Remember, the Supreme Court trial goes on air probably next week when the case is filed. We'll move with this, and I'm looking forward to you gentlemen again sitting on this table to discuss what's going on, and also at the Supreme Court. Thank you so much, Dr. Eric Komolo, my classmate. At least I went to school.
I can confirm you have the certificate.
Yes,
I can confirm Ken's degree is valid.
And Dr. Duncan Ojwang, asante sana for coming. Always a pleasure. Thank you for watching on behalf of the whole team. Have a good night. God bless. We'll do this again whenever we have an opportunity. Remember, the election is still on. So the more we have the conversations, that's the only way to stop fighting. Have a good night and God bless.